Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today we're looking at the 2009 collection of Amazing Spider-Man, Crime and Punisher. Last year, I started my coverage of Spider-Man Brand New Day, a story that reset the status quo for our web-headed hero. It broke him up with Mary Jane, established a new set of friends that included Harry Osborn returned miraculously to life, gave him a new roommate in the impatient and Spidey-hating cop Vin Gonzalez, started him on a new job at the newspaper Frontline run by old Bugle staffer Ben Urich, and perhaps most importantly, condensed all the various Spider titles of the time down to a single title, Amazing Spider-Man, which makes it so much easier to cover for this channel. I've covered the rest of the series leading up to this already, which includes the 3 volumes actually labeled Brand New Day, as well as the collections Kraven's First Hunt and New Ways to Die. So be sure to watch my videos on all of those if you want to get all caught up. I also plan to keep covering the rest of the Brand New Day era of Spider-Man, 1 volume or story arc at a time, so that brings us here to Crime and Punisher, which continues to re-establish the new world Spidey finds himself in. So let's see just what Dostoevskian themes await us and take this away. The comic opens on a building-shaped sound effect. Oh. Oh, wait. No, I think those are actually just buildings that happen to be vaguely letter-shaped. Oh. I thought they were being clever here, but it's actually just coincidence, maybe? The building is a hospital, and we find ourselves meeting up with the recovering Flash Thompson. It's Christmas time, and as a present, Flash received an MP3 player from his old pal Peter Parker, preloaded with the Billy Joel written Cass Dillon song, Christmas in Fallujah. This was pre-streaming times, guys. Us old-timers used to have to put music onto some kind of medium in order to listen to it. The past sucked. The song choice is appropriate because Thompson is recovering from wounds received during his time serving in the Iraq War, a revival of how Thompson had served as a soldier during the Vietnam War. An unstated thing about Brand New Day that seems to be heavily implied is that before the reset, all these Spider characters seem to be pushing 30, if not past it, but following Brand New Day, they now all seem to be in their early 20s again. The first issue is spent with Flash recounting his story of how he was injured, a story heavily based off of the real-life experiences of Army vet Jeffrey Gurin. The story, which focuses on Flash attempting to save his fellow soldiers from an enemy ambush and pull them out of the war zone, is interspersed with a number of images from Spider-Man history, moments considered relevant to Flash's words. It's all about heroism and bravery, and I get what they're going for, but it all feels awkwardly self-serving to me, and honestly belittling of real-life experiences. Instead of feeling like they're saying soldiers are superheroes, which I'm pretty sure is what they're going for, it feels like they're saying their fictional superheroes running around in pajamas are just as brave and heroic as real people who put their actual lives on the line for their cause and beliefs. More cringe than inspirational, sadly. But hey, Barry Kitson's art is seriously on point for this issue, so at least there's that. We also get interspersed in the story some flashbacks. Get it? Flashbacks? I'm sorry. These include the revelation that Flash's nickname might actually be due to some performance issues with the ladies, as opposed to the standard high school football champion explanation. We also learned that his dad was an abusive drunk, which I believe has been revealed before, but it will also become a focus for future stories centered around Flash that we'll get in this era, so I thought it worth mentioning. Also important to future stories is the final revelation of this issue, that the cost of Flash's heroism was the complete loss of his legs. Our next story, in a drastic change of mood and pace, opens on Spidey rescuing an unhoused woman and her pet, this adorable rat who has had a supercomputer implanted in his brain. They're running from these weird clown guys riding on flying jet scooter things. And yeah, that's literally what's happening here. Surprisingly though, this is not the main story. Instead, it just seems to be an excuse to make fun of how bad this lady's breath is, which feels unnecessarily mean. Nothing says comedy like making fun of the less fortunate, am I right? Instead, the main story here brings the return of new villain Mr. Negative and old villain Hammerhead. Ol' Hammerhead nearly died when he was assassinated in a hospital bed during Civil War, but a story here shows he lived through that, and this gave him the chance to reflect on his life, with memories long forgotten coming back to him, which is to say his origin story is being rewritten. Now we learn that he was a Russian living in Italy, whose father was also an angry drunk, and a sculptor that used to beat him in the head with his sculpting hammer, earning him his nickname. After murdering the girl who picked on him and gave him that nickname, Hammerhead caught the eye of a local mobster named Manfredi. Hammy would work his way up through Manfredi's ranks, even eventually getting to be the one to murder his own father. Supposedly impressed by all he's done, Manfredi would end up sending Hammerhead to America, but apparently it was actually just so he could betray him. But after being left for dead in a gutter, Hammerhead was found by mad scientist Jonas Hero, who would give him his titanium head that further enforced his Hammerhead nickname. With a weak grasp on his memories and a lifelong love of movies, Hammerhead would adopt a cheesy mobster flick personality, modeled on Al Capone, and come into repeated conflict with Spider-Man. The reason he didn't die following Civil War is because his life was saved by Mr. Negative, who had his own people work on Hammerhead, including this Dr. Trauma lady, so that our new villain could offer this classic villain a new lease on life. This involved an entirely new cybernetic upper body. It's not just his noggin anymore. Captain In here also points out to Hammerhead how Al Capone really died. From syphilis, according to Negative Nelly here. Although that actually only seems to be part of the cause in real life, but whatever. Regardless, this gives Hammy the image of a bedridden, sick Al Capone, and not a guy who went out in a blaze of glory like Hammy always seemed to believe. And that hits home with the gangster who so recently thought he was going to die in bed as well. So he accepts what Mr. Negative offers. Thankful for his new life, Hammerhead wants to prove what he can build for his new employer, and that means a new gang. A gang made up of street gangs, mostly teenagers, intimidated into working for Mr. Negative by Hammerhead's brutality. Spider-Man gets involved with this, as so often happens with superheroes, by completely unrelated events. Attempting to avoid Lily Hollister, currently Harry Osborn's girlfriend, after she kissed him for suspicious reasons at the end of New Ways to Die, Peter claims to his new boss Ben Urich that he can't cover this latest election story because he's working on something with Nora Winters. Nora is introduced for the first time in this issue, and has one single personality trait: snark. She's so snarky, it leads her into repeatedly attacking Peter, despite the fact that, as he annoyingly repeatedly points out, she doesn't even know him. And it also leads her into making a racist joke. So, you know, she's great, obviously. So happy she's going to stick around for a very long time. Can't you tell how happy I am? Nora's story that Peter volunteered himself into is about a local education outreach program, which brings us to meet Ant, a local and very intelligent kid and self-proclaimed genius. I love him, he's adorable, so he will not be sticking around. Ant's older brother Dunk is not interested in what this science fair has to offer to his younger brother and pulls him out of there, rather forcefully, which Peter doesn't like, but he also can't do anything about it without revealing his secret identity. Dunk is part of a gang that's attempting to prepare to say no to Hammerhead's offer to join, but while he's alone, Spider-Man goes all after-school special on Dunk to try and scare him out of that life. He's pretty bad at it though, but it's what ends up pretty much saving his life, because while he's outside with Spider-Man, Hammerhead pays a visit to the gang and kills them all. All except for Ant. Not that the hamster seems to have any qualms about killing kids, and he starts to threaten Ant as well. Luckily, Spidey's right there, and even though he somehow missed all the rest of the chaos, he notices what's happening now, just in time to show up and try to stop Hammy. Only this is when he learns the hard way about all of Hammer's new upgrades. Hammerhead breaks Spidey's bones, beating him into a bloody pulp, and Spidey just barely manages to flee with Dunk and Ant and get away. He took pictures of the attack that he sells to Frontline, and I guess since he's supposedly working with Nora, she takes the lead on the story, attempting to interview Dunk to get him to spill the secrets on Hammerhead's plan. They're able to track Dunk down thanks to Dunk having lifted some of Spidey's spider tracers, which it's a bit crazy that he still carries them around, seeing as he's wanted by the police because they found those very spider tracers on the bodies of dead victims, but I'm sure it's fine. Anyway, while Nora is talking to Dunk, Pete finally manages to sneak away from her to go do the hero thing, heading to a train yard he saw mentioned in a text Dunk received. There he finds Ant and a bunch of unnamed gangstas he got to come with him. Turns out Ant lured Spidey here as a trap, ready to prove to Hammerhead that they were worthy of joining his gang, because it was actually Ant who stole the spider tracers and set this all up. He's a genius, you know? At least they thought they were ready to prove this, but it turns out no one here was really all that up for shooting down Spider-Man in cold blood. So Hammerhead intervenes to finish the job, only this time Spidey notices that Hammerhead is top-heavy, because it was really only his upper body that got upgraded. So Spidey is able to take Hammer down by simply dislocating his hip, bringing a close to that story. And all without making a single Hammer Time joke. I'm proud of Spidey. And myself. The final story in the collection focuses on Punisher, who is busy hunting down an arms dealer named Moses Magnum, as this story is a throwback to an old Spidey story that also co-starred Punisher and was the debut of Chase Magnum, or whatever his name was again. Magnum Moses, or whatever, has created a Hulk serum, a new superpower granting drug that he claims is better than the mutant growth hormone we saw in Kraven's First Hunt, because this one turns people into Hulks. Spidey ends up getting involved in this because he happens to run across Frank Castle in the street. Pete, and his endless quest to find a real job, was out attempting to earn a cabbie license, but in a joke that I'm sure is funny to New Yorkers, he apparently doesn't know how to drive at all, and mostly only knows how to get around the city from the perspective of swinging across the rooftops, which doesn't help him here. Punisher, on the other hand, has been busy stealing Magnum PI's only case of the drug, and when Spidey manages to track Frank down, Magnum is only a few steps behind. Before Magnum can see that Spidey is there, Punisher manages to knock Spider-Man out, drops him in the harbor, and then swallows one of his spider tracers. Pete, you're clearly leaving those things too accessible. No wonder they're framing you so easily with them. Get it together, man. When Pete comes to, he realizes what Punisher did and hijacks someone's boat to get out to the yacht that Punisher is sailing away on. Magnum, it seems, managed to capture Frank in the in-between time, and Punisher reveals that he's already destroyed all of Magnum's drug supply. Well, all except for one little needle of it that he kept hidden and is prepared to use on himself, but when Magnum starts talking about the effects of the drug, Punisher decides this isn't his thing and smashes this last little vial as well. Spidey arrives just then to rescue Punisher and easily takes out the Magnum men. Magnum himself has the power to cause earthquakes, but since they're, on a boat, on the ocean, his powers don't have any effect. So Spidey just knocks him out and turns the boat back towards shore. His plan is to take in everyone, including Castle, but Punisher shoots Magnum in the gut, so Spidey is forced to choose between saving Magnum's life and chasing after the Punisher as he steals the same boat Spidey stole to get out here. Seems like Spidey could have just webbed up Frank real easily here if he really wanted to, but he doesn't do that, instead giving Magnum first aid and heading towards shore. That's the end of the story, though I will mention one last little bit. There was a brief interlude in this story where we checked in on the bookie, who last we saw had agreed to look into the real murderer behind the Spider Tracer killings. Here he confronts J. Jonah Jameson, believing him the perpetrator, but Jonah just calmly listens to his rants and then tases the crazed man. This shocking development, I'm sorry, makes Bookie realize who the real murderer is, but we don't get into that here. Instead, we just get to the breakdown. Well, I'm not a fan. Brand New Day has already been not that great so far, and yet this still manages to be kind of a low point. These stories all feel mostly pointless, rushed, and badly written, with some really bad art. Seriously, this has absolutely been my least favorite art of the Brand New Day era so far. I do like the idea of reworking Hammerhead into a much more frightening villain, and they do have some success at that here, and his flashback story might be my favorite single story from the Brand New Day up to this point. If the rest of the collection had been that good, I would have absolutely loved this volume. Instead, not so much. So yeah, I'm giving this a recommendation level of low. While again, the Hammerhead story is good and the Flash War story is pretty essential for future stories, for the most part, I think this volume is pretty skippable. The collected edition gets 1. Titanium Skull, which is a bad thing. because only villains have that. Duh. The collection is only 4 issues and a story from a brand new day special issue, and no bonuses whatsoever. As unremarkable a collection as the stories contained within it. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Just a quick little update on the brand new day thing, because as I said, I plan to cover each one of these, and I'm gonna do it 1 volume at a time. Hopefully I can kind of keep doing these as just sort of filler updates in between the bigger updates I do on the bigger stories, as part of my efforts to try and get more updates out this year. I promise I'm not intentionally slacking, it's just been very busy. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, or you're excited about what the future holds, or you're just a nice person, make sure to click the like and subscribe and all those things so you can be sure to be here next time, and I hope to see you then, right here, in the Comic Cave.